This video was created by human, translated and dubbed by machine.
Well, friends, today we're talking about how to choose a camera. Not what camera to choose, but how to choose a camera. Because everything is very individual and it all depends on your tasks. If you make an analogy, you want to carry 20 tons of sand every day. For this, you need a truck, right? Or for example, do you want every day to ride in the wind on the Serpentine with your favorite dog, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever? That's what a car like this is for. So, we'll talk about all the pros, cons, and all the things to consider when choosing a camera. This will help you form the right questions by answering which you can easily choose the camera that is right for you. Also, additionally in this video, I will be emphasizing the points that a beginner needs to know. If you're choosing your first camera, I'm going to say, at this point, pay attention. Well, there you go. Woo! Autofocus! 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 Anyway, I think this is the most important parameter today to consider when choosing a camera. And first, you need autofocus if you don't want to bother. If you're shooting weddings, if you're shooting some simple, not fancy commercial videos, if you're shooting yourself on YouTube, TikTok, wherever, if you're shooting family videos, you need autofocus. You don't need autofocus in a few cases. First, if you're shooting a super professional movie there, etc., you've got 500 people on set, and 5 of them are spinning the focus when you don't fucking need that video at all. That's the first point. The second point is if you don't have the money for autofocus. And the third point is if you plan to use only vintage lenses. That is, only old lenses that basically have no autofocus, then it makes no sense for you to overpay for a camera that has this focus. So friends, you probably need autofocus. That's where I would start. Anyway, there are 2 cool manufacturers. There's Sony and Canon, both of which have amazing autofocus. It tracks your face, it tracks your eye, it tracks even when you go behind a tree, then come out, it still keeps tracking your face and so on. In short, it doesn't let go. Anyway, this autofocus can work in the KGB, in the CIA, in MI6, in intelligence. I don't know which one. South African intelligence. Anywhere. Or help you make videos. If for you, fast, cool, awesome autofocus is number 1, then either Sony or Canon. If autofocus is secondary to you, then not necessarily Sony and not necessarily Canon. Autofocus. Hey types. Woo! That's for you, me, to these, the cyclist. Size. It's just as important as weight. Because it's one thing to carry around a camera that weighs 5 kilograms, and it's quite another to carry around one that weighs less than a kilogram or a kilogram. With a camera like that, it's easier to travel, to shoot vlogs, to shoot your family, whatever. And the other thing is, with a junk like that, but such a junk will cost a lot, but it will have interesting features, which will not have a small such camera. But if it's your first camera, I recommend the smaller, the lighter the better, because that will determine how much you shoot with that camera. Because the lighter and smaller it is, the easier it will be for you to take it with you. You don't want to spend 2 weeks with a big heavy camera, because it's going to be a burden. And a small camera, you take it out of your pocket, clack clack, and that's it, and cool. Or you take it out, start shooting video, and that's it, super great. So, this is the second very important point to pay attention to after the autofocus. And I put a recommendation here right away. If this is your first camera, I recommend you to take only one with autofocus. It's 100%. And the second, the lighter and smaller the better. Sensor. Full frame was taken as the basis, as a unit. The other sensors that have gotten smaller are APS-C sensors, and they started to have a slightly different index, 1.6. So if you put a 50mm lens, no, let's say for a good example 100, If we put a 100mm lens on a full-frame camera, we get this angle of view. If we put that same lens on an APS-C camera, it will have the equivalent of 160mm. So, the angle of view will be like this. I'm not going to go into details, but it's not the same as putting a 160 on a full-frame lens. You will get exactly the same angle of view, but for example, the blur from behind, the bokeh, will be different. Question: why then would we take an APS-C? Or even worse, a micro 4/3 inches sensor? For one thing, they're cheaper available. But most importantly, here's the hitch, that if you want to shoot a portrait at 50mm, you have to buy, for example, 25 in micro 4/3, that's multiplied by 2, and you get about the same tasty distance. And if in the past, for example, a full-frame camera was more photosensitive, you could shoot 5000 ISO at dark night and so on. It was amazing because there was just more light sensitivity. But now even on a micro 4/3 or an APS-C camera, you can easily shoot at night, 2, 3, 5000 ISO, and everything will be okay, there won't be any super noise, and things like that. Technology got ahead of the curve a long time ago, so the only difference is the viewing angle. And that's what you need to recalculate it. By the way, I'm shooting this video now on a camera with an APS-C sensor size, and I'm fine with that. I don't suffer in any way that it's not full frame. But that's not all. What if I told you that most of the movies you've seen are shot on a sensor size? APS-C, well, not really APS-C size. Did you suffer from that in any way? Have you ever seen the difference? Can you even tell the difference? Watch not even a movie. Watch the video and figure out if this video was shot on full frame, APS-C, or micro 4/3. I don't think you can. Neither can I. Consequently, the question is this an important factor in choosing a camera? I don't think it is. It may be a factor, but not a fundamental one.
Three, 2, 1.
4K, 8K, 48K. All this does not matter much. Most importantly, do not take less than 4K, because it's just not modern or something. And in general, we all watch this content on phones first of all, and there it does not matter 4, 8, 48, all this does not matter so much. The only thing, be careful, if you are interested in parameters such as slow motion, it very often happens that 25 FPS or 50 FPS camera shoots in 4K, and 100 FPS, 200 FPS it shoots in full HD. By the way, all these parameters like 50 FPS, 100 FPS, I think it's all, well, it's all that, it doesn't matter. It's not the kind of slow motion that might surprise you. Yeah, if the camera was shooting 500 frames, 1000 frames per second, that's another matter. But it doesn't. And that's why I would advise against paying attention to it at all. Shoot not slowed down if you want. Right, in slowing it down you can do it in DaVinci. If the camera has 5K, 8K, that might just be a plus. Yes, you like the camera for compactness, for autofocus, for some other characteristics that are important to you. But the bonus is you'll have 8K, you'll be shooting 4K, and you'll have 4 left over to spare. Just kidding. So, let's talk about the most unobvious. For me, a very important point is the menu in the camera. It's very important. Why? I used to have a Sony A7S III, and it was the worst camera I've ever had in my life. It was super autofocus, it was just like an incredible camera. It had a great picture, and it still does to this day. It's still an actual camera. You know what the funny thing is? The menus on that camera were so terrible that I gladly sold it, and I don't want to buy Sony cameras anymore. Because Sony cameras, do you know what the menus are like? It's like someone just took all the functions and mixed them up in a lottery drum and just shoved it into the camera. I mean, it's just impossible to find anything in there. I mean, there's 500 million thousand functions that are broken down into 3 categories. And it got to the point where, when I was shooting, I had to find a function that I didn't use all the time, every day, in order to find it. That I knew it was right there. It took me 10 minutes. 10 minutes! Okay, everybody wait. It takes me 10 minutes to find where the autofocus is on. That's what I love about Blackmagic. The menu is amazing. I can find any function, even one I've never used, in literally 15 seconds. And that's pretty cool. It's very important to consider the menu before choosing a camera. It's a weird characteristic, right? But to me, very important. Very important. DSLR or mirrorless camera. These are the two sections you will find on the website of any camera manufacturer. What is a DSLR camera? In a nutshell, it used to be, well now for some reason, they produce them too. Basically, there used to be a camera that had a mirror in it, the image came through the lens, went up higher, and you could see that image in the viewfinder. And when you pressed a button, the mirror would go up, the shutter would open, the light from the lens would go to the sensor, and you'd get a photograph. That's just very short and simple. It's a time when there's no DSLR, and they just took away that mirror, and accordingly, the lens can be moved closer to the sensor, so you get a better picture. Why? First of all, you need fewer elements in the lens, so there's less refraction, so there's less artifacts, imperfections, distortion, and so on. And on top of that, the light travels less distance to the sensor. Thus, we get a better quality picture. And accordingly, there is no mirror. Less size, less weight. All in all, it's just an advantage. Don't think about taking a camera with a mirror. Personal preference. Yes, that's what I would call it. You know, some of the things, the nuances that can influence your choice very much. Let's say you like the aesthetics, the film, it's all the grain and the colors and the atmosphere. And then, it's worth looking at Fujifilm cameras? Why? Because they have a built-in preset that allows you to do that without leaving the cash register. You just set a preset, press a button, and you get a picture as if it was taken on a photo film with the same grain and colors. It's all very cool, because Fujifilm are the guys who have been making film for a long time, and they're still making it to this day too. Isn't anybody going out there? If anyone is driving out of the garage, post in the comments. So, you just take a picture and get the results right away. No Lightroom, processing, etc. You drop it on your phone, upload it to Instagram, and you're done. Or dump it on your computer, print it out, frame it, done. That's it. This can be the decisive factor and fundamental. And then you can think about the size of the sensor or the autofocus. For example, the autofocus of the film is not bad, not as cool as a Sony or Canon, but it's not bad. And if film is sticking out for you, you should opt for Fujifilm. Again, I'm not advertising anyone, it's just, this is a good example. If you're into super fast, it's focus that keeps track of your dog, then by all means, go with Sony or Canon. It's important to just figure out what your number one priority is. And by answering that question, you can choose a camera very easily. I will tell you here that if the number one factor in buying a camera for you is shit. Moving on. Ha 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 ha. I'll tell you right away that if your main factor in buying a camera is this blurry background effect, bokeh, it's not about the camera, it's about the lenses. And I will definitely make a separate video about lenses. I will leave the link in the description, but here I must add at once, to clarify for those who buy your first camera. It is desirable to buy a camera with an interchangeable lens. I will explain why. Because sooner or later, you will get tired of one delicious distance. And if you have a zoom, and it still won't have that effect. Because once you can put different optics, you'll get a new level of enjoyment. So you will have some kind of lens initially. At some point you will get satiated with it and want new sensations. And this is where interchangeable lenses come in handy. So you shoot everything with 50, and then at some point you set it to 24 or 20. Wow, how wide everything is now. And now everything can be photographed in a completely different way. Or you shoot 85 and wow, how blurry the bokeh is in the back, how cool the background is, and so on. Or you can put an old lens through an adapter and get vintage effects. You know what I mean? That's why it's important to get a camera with an interchangeable lens, but not to give up compactness, especially if it's your first camera. So you want to take a compact camera and a compact lens. Such combinations do exist. And again, I want to tell you not to chase it with full frame. Well, a quick summary. To start with, if this is your first camera, you need autofocus. It has to be light, compact, and have interchangeable lenses. Desirable. It makes absolutely no difference if it's full frame or not. You'll just have to pay attention to your lens choice. It has to be 4K. And be sure to decide exactly what inspires you. Film simulation or autofocus. What do you expect from the camera? What do you want? This will help you make the right choice. To all of you who have seen this video, thank you so much. I want to hug you all back. More videos from me. From you. A like, subscribe bell. Bye.